Kia ora nā, talofa lava, maloi lele, whakalofa lahi asu, Nisa Bula Vinaka, and hello. Welcome to Awhi the podcast. This podcast has come from the everyday conversations we have about housing, well-being, the challenges people face, but also the strength and resilience that we see in our communities. We wanted to create a space where we could have honest kōrero about the realities of this mahi, to share stories and experiences, and hopefully help others to feel a little more connected and understood. In this episode, we're joined by our Tiakitanga data analyst, Liam, who shares insight into his mahi and why data is so important. So, wherever you're joining us from today, whether it be your couch, your car, maybe even your desk, thank you for being here.
Oh my goodness, welcome Liam. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks for having me.
Tell us about your journey into the office today. How did we get here?
We got here really late and I had to go home to take my wife's car keys back to her. So my kids were late for school, I was late for work, and so was my wife. So an excellent morning all round. Really good start to the day.
Sounds like an amazing start to the day. No, but thank you for being here, honestly, truly. This is really awesome. We're super grateful for the work that you do within our space. So I guess to kind of like kick us off, talk to us just a little bit about what you do within your mahi. Like, what is a Tiakitanga analyst and what does a day in the life of a Tiakitanga analyst look like?
Yeah, so basically what I do is I track the performance of the program. So I'm the person who has a kind of full overview over Awhi, the Awhi program, what we're doing, how well we're doing it, when we're doing it, and who we're doing it for. Mm-hmm. So I track performance, I write reports, and then I manage the systems that we work within.
Awesome. And if you were to give us like one word that describes your mahi, what would that word be? For listeners who are like, data, what is that? What does that all mean? What's that kind of one word that'll connect people into your space?
Information.
Information. So you're the information guy.
Yep.
Cool. Talk about that.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing. I kind of fell into the space out of sheer just interest. Mm-hmm. I've always been someone who likes to know what's going on in the spaces that I'm in, and by extension, when I came into the team, I really wanted to be able to understand what we were doing, and so kind of that's what I've kind of done. Well, that's what has driven me, I think, is giving information to our frontline staff, to management, to funders and all of that, so they know the impact that the program's having, mm-hmm. and also what is actually going on in our communities. Because information, like good information, is critical to good decision making, and so that's kind of what informs what I do.
I love that. Information. Okay, so Liam, Tiakitanga analyst, the guy who gives information, the guy who connects the community to the funders, to everything that we do within our space. It's really cool.
Can you give us an insight into the kind of information that you're looking for, that you collect to use, I guess, to tell a story, or to tell the story of the impact that you mentioned?
Yeah, so, we track a whole wide range of data. Something that we look at, and a lot of the things that I'm focused on, is who are we doing this work for? Who are the people being impacted by poor housing conditions? So we track, where whānau are living, what kind of homes they're in, and who they are. We keep track of all of that because it helps us to be able to paint a picture. Right, we need to be able to paint a picture for people to understand that poor housing conditions is affecting these whānau here. And so that's a big portion of what I'm doing is illustrating that to anyone who will listen. And then on top of that, because we understand who we're working with, the next kind of step is, what are we actually doing? So those are the two main things that we look at. We look at who is coming to the service, who is living in these poor housing conditions, and then what are we actually doing to help them. So those are the two sides of our data in Awhi, and those are the two things that inform how we work and how we will work in the future.
Awesome. And everything is kept in a system or a database, or how are we holding this information?
Yeah, so we use a system called Monday.com, and within that has our it's what we use for case management. It's what we use for a database, and it's how we kind of draw insights from that. Within that system, all of our Awhi providers can use that and kind of seamlessly implement interventions for whānau in need.
Yeah, cool. I think another thing that we think about when we're talking about the impacts that we're making is probably like the gaps that we see. So I think like very often, in our minds we're like cold, damp housing. We're going in, we're going to conduct an assessment, we're going to send a supplier document or a referral off to Habitat or Kāinga, whatever, whoever it is that we're working with in the space. But I guess like when you're looking at trends, when you are reading data and getting this information, like what are some of the gaps or things, maybe themes that you've come across when you're analysing the data? Are there any major themes that you're seeing within our communities?
I think a major theme that springs to mind when you ask the question, obviously I don't have my data right in front of me, but it is the thermal envelopes of our homes aren't good enough. They're not sealed.
Okay.
Drafts are becoming more and more of an issue. So historically it's actually been inadequate heating, which is still a really big issue, but as kind of landlords and property managers and rentals having to adhere to kind of the legislative, the Healthy Homes Act now, adequate heating becomes less of an issue, and then the actual kind of the drafts become more of an issue because we're losing heat through that space. It doesn't matter if you have a really nice heat pump in your home if you can't fully close a window or door.
And just so I'm correct, these are just the things that we're recognising within our service, right?
That's just stuff that we're seeing.
Just so we're clear, I think that maybe for listeners, if they're listening and they're like, so is that like every house or is that just the service? So I just want to make sure that we're giving clear information. So those are the themes and gaps that you're recognising within our service.
Those are the gaps that we see kind of within Awhi or trends of kind of issues identified in the home. That's becoming more prevalent. A need for draft proofing has become more of a thing. But a big issue with a lot of the whānau coming through our programs, the things that they're facing is the cold at night, particularly in kids' bedrooms and stuff, because not obviously, but legislation only requires a home that's being rented to have like a fixed heating source in the living area or the main area of the home, right? And a lot of these heat pumps don't actually push warm air, reach the bedrooms and stuff. So we do still see a need for heating in those spaces because when our tamariki are asleep, that's when they're at their most vulnerable. And that's something that I think within Awhi, I think we're all quite proud that we can provide, portable heating sources for those situations. And we do a good job of that. Making sure that those spaces where our tamariki are sleeping are as warm as where the fixed heating sources are.
Yeah, thanks for that insight. So you've highlighted the gaps. Can you talk to us about the successes that you're seeing? I know you've been in this space for a little while now, so it'll be interesting to know if over the years you've seen things improve for the whānau that we're working with.
Yeah, I think an interesting kind of trend that I've seen within our program and something that I've actually spoken spoken about recently is we're seeing less of a pressing demand for minor repairs in homes. So we're seeing that we're seeing whānau are more living in homes that are just in better condition in general, but we're also seeing other services supporting whānau in that space before they're even getting to us.
Okay.
So it's been an interesting thing. We still, we know here that we offer that kind of service and support through our partners in Habitat for Humanity, but we're starting to be able to, we're starting to see a little bit of improvement, particularly across private rentals and stuff with the whānau coming through our program. There's still lots of issues and lots of homes that need our support, but hopefully the trend continues that, especially those whānau living in private rentals, they won't need support from us because their landlords are already meeting all their obligations. So, yeah.
That's interesting, because then we still see the gap of that thermal envelope. So what is it that, so the private rental home comes through the service but isn't needing as many minor repairs? Are we saying that thermal envelope gap is shrinking?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I can't speak to it, with certainty.
Yes.
Everything I say is obviously kind of based on our own experience and data, and this might be different across the country.
For sure.
But we are seeing kind of the gap between a healthy home and an unhealthy home starting to shrink.
Oh.
I think.
Awesome.
Or at least that's what I can kind of see, or that's the conclusion I draw. And that could simply be because of services like our own providing support to homes, a combination of legislation becoming more effective, not completely effective, but more effective, and the personal responsibility of landlords and stuff really starting to kind of meet and push for New Zealand homes to get better and better. We got a long way to go. Our programs wouldn't exist if the problem was solved. But I think there's definitely, we can see trends of improvement in that kind of space.
Yeah. And so how important is it for us to tell these stories by using the data? Like, how important is putting data into a system to be able to tell a story? What kind of impact is that making for?
I mean, it's huge because, we can tell stories about families that go through really hard times and live in bad conditions. But when we're talking to kind of the decision makers of the world, they're not going to take our word for it, unfortunately. They want to see hard evidence. And in a world that is so driven by, dollar value and evidence and numbers and stuff, it's important that we do our best not only to work with the whānau and share their voice, but to back them up with evidence, with numbers, because that's the language that a lot of decision makers are using. They can hear that the things are bad, but they won't move until they see evidence. And that's the reality of what we do and why it's so important for us to track what's happening out there in the community in a way that we can translate it, basically. So if we've got numbers, if we've got evidence, we can back our whānau stories, the stories coming out of the community that housing isn't in a good space. We can really show that and come from a place of strength.
Cool.
Yeah, I think just listening, I often hear kōrero where it's the IT guy or the data guy, but
the data analyst.
Yeah, I think just listening, it really goes to show how your mahi is just as important as the ones who are out on the front line daily. They're the ones out there engaging with whānau and collecting that data. And then it comes back to you so you can, I guess, translate it or, use it in a way that you can tell stories and really see the impact of one, like what our kaimahi are seeing, and then two, what we're doing to try and improve that for whānau.
Yeah.
I think it's important, like, that we're all playing a part in a larger kind of system here. You know, we try to create a system of support for whānau within Awhi, and if we just have the front line, that system of support's not going to be complete. So everyone's roles within programs like our own is I think just as important as each other's. I think we have different spheres of influence. You know, my kind of influence being the system, the data stuff. But it is really important that we get each part right, so that when we all kind of come together, we've got this really robust program and really robust kind of platform for whānau to get the help that they need.
Yeah, we were actually talking about that yesterday, in terms of, you know, like we were sharing about how we started off as administrators, and whether you're the administrator, the team lead, the kaiwhakatere, or, you know, navigator, it's sometimes like the administrator is the most important part for that piece of work, to be able to then work with the data analyst and the provider, and then for us to be able to work with all of you guys so that we can then, I guess, service improvement, we can write the report that we need to write, or our team lead can share that information in a way to say, like, hey, this is the work that we're doing, here are some gaps, and we need your help and support from those people who can make those decisions.
Yeah, and I think on the flip side too, you know, from being someone in admin and, you know, kind of in this more removed office setting, it goes back to the kaiwhakatere too. The information that we can gather is information that they can use in their day-to-day. You know, if we identify that, hey, what we're seeing is a huge influx of whānau needing curtains for example, we can go to the kaiwhakatere and be like, make sure that you're checking in, make sure you're making these referrals, and we can open up kind of pathways for them so they can meet the need. Because, you know, our frontline teams, our kaiwhakatere, they're so focused on the well-being of the whānau that's in front of them, that they don't have time to worry about, like, oh, what's this huge large trend happening, because they are so good at their jobs working with whānau. We need to take that burden away from them, and then give them the information that they need to kind of service again the next whānau that's in front of them. I think that's really important, that we are doing all of our work to support them, as well as our work to, you know, report and do all of that. It goes both ways, and we kind of get to sit in the middle of it all, which is really cool to be a part of.
Cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. It makes me think of this, like, saying or whakatauki that we use in Te Ao Māori. You probably know it, and it goes, nā tōroro, nā tākuroro, ka ora ai te iwi, and it means, like, with your contribution and my contribution, our people will thrive. And I think that really, like, speaks to that. Like, you know, we all, like you sort of said, play a part, no matter if you're the admin, the person out on the front line, the data or the IT guy, the boss. We all sort of play an important role in the way that we support our whānau. And, you know, we wouldn't be able to provide such a good service if you were to remove one of those components.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
I mean, that's the impact that's been had on whānau. You know, without one of the parts of the system moving and functioning and working, how do we ensure that we're doing great for them? So I love this. This has been such an awesome little session, from you driving around Waikato, getting to and fro, to landing here and sitting with us today. It's been a real pleasure, and I know that we kōrero in our spaces all the time, but even in this space, and we're talking about it from probably a different lens again. I don't know, for me, I was like, I feel like I've heard this type of kōrero from you, but it's a nice reminder about the stuff that we're doing in the space as well, and knowing how we're impacting on whānau. So anything else from you, Po, before we kind of wrap up? I've got this one question, but that's probably all I have. Got one final question for Liam.
I do have one question.
Hit it.
I guess, like, in terms of equity, like, what does that mean in our mahi? And, like, I guess, like, putting that into practice. What does equity mean?
I'm no means an expert, I guess, in equity, but for me, or for what it means for me in this space, is helping the whānau who need the help. I think, I can't remember I heard it, but you know, there are a lot of whānau in our program, or even just in the wider country, that get told constantly, you know, pick yourself up by the bootstraps, you know, why are you not doing X, why are you doing this? You've got to kind of put in the work to find some success, but success is impossible to find when your home is making you sick.
Yeah.
When the well-being of your children is your high priority, when you're in survival mode. So for me, equity is about finding those whānau, making sure we're removing barriers from them, you know, barriers into school, barriers into to mahi, barriers into being a part of a wider society and a community. I think that's ultimately what we're trying to do, and that's how we kind of, I guess, embody the idea of equity within Awhi is, you know, we're trying to make sure that someone's home isn't contributing to their whānau being unable to move forward, to grow, to progress. And I think people don't realise how big an impact living in poor conditions can have on a whānau's, not only their like physical well-being, but their mental well-being too. When home isn't a safe space, how are they supposed to get themselves into, you know, a space of toe to really go out into the world and face it for all it's got, I think. So for me, that's kind of what we're doing. We're identifying those whānau who need our help, and we do our best to provide it so we can allow them to thrive.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you.
Appreciate that. So, on our podcast, which has just started, we wanted to start like a little tradition where the last person who spoke has left a question for the next person, but not knowing who the next person is.
Well, that's a lot of pressure.
I knew it was you, but that's okay. So I'm going to ask you the question, and it's probably quite similar to what Poe just asked you. But the question is, when I find it, what analytical approaches would you recommend to ensure reporting supports equitable healthcare decision making?
What analytical approaches
Would you recommend?
would I recommend? Oh, my goodness.
And remember, these are just questions.
I think, what kind of approaches?
And also maybe think about what you're currently doing, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's a
To
good
ensure
question.
Reporting supports equitable healthcare decision making.
I think taking an analytical approach to it.
Nice,
No, but
nice. You are an analyst.
I think being comprehensive in your investigation
Okay.
before you say anything, do anything, paint a picture of anything, because you know, we learn about there can be inherent bias in data,
Yeah.
and sometimes at face value the data can tell you a story that may not necessarily be representing the whole truth. So it's really important, I think, when as an analyst or as a manager or as even someone just investigating or researching kind of healthy homes or any kind of topic, it's important to make sure that you are doing as much as you can to remove bias from your data. That can happen in many different forms. That can be removing identifying factors, you know, making sure that you're also investigating the wider context of your data. So we spoke a lot about what's happening within Awhi, right? This is Awhi data. But when we take the Awhi, the information that we have, and we put it in the wider context of the country and what's going on in housing in New Zealand, we can we can place, we can paint a better picture. Basically, we can understand that we might be seeing a high number of whānau in a particular kind of ethnic group, but it's not actually the wider context of the country as a whole, so we can't speak to it as if it is that way. But yeah, just making sure that we're removing bias from data, I think, is really important when we're painting pictures, and particularly with focus to creating kind of equitable outcomes. I guess just being careful and stuff like that. So yeah.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that was your question. That was a good answer.
That was a lot of pressure.
If you could leave a question for our next guest, what would it be?
And it doesn't have to be a question about anything Awhi related in particular. But just a question for the next speaker. What's something that you'd want to hear an answer about? I'm going to write it down.
Okay. What's a question for the next person? Just take a moment to think about it.
That's okay. What's your favorite color?
I guess, how much impact can one individual have in a space like this?
Okay. In a space like this, like what?
Like within our, housing, healthy homes, or just whatever space.
Okay, cool.
I guess the person you're talking to is in.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Liam. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Your insight and everything that you shared with us today. I hope your day ends on a higher note.
I'm sure it will.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode. We hope that our kōrero has given you some insight into our mahi and the importance of the data that we collect. If you're keen to learn more about the mahi that we do, give us a sub or go find us over on socials. Otherwise, we look forward to having you join us the next time. Mā te wā.